Everybody, I'm Gokul from Restoration Brokers America, and today I got a treat for you. A really good buddy of mine, Leighton, CEO of KnowHow. He just came out with a book on why workers quit and couldn't have timed it any better. Even in our firm, we see valuations, we see all kinds of issues with people finding technicians, finding people in the office, and it's really affecting their business. So I thought I would bring Leighton on and let's talk about why workers quit, and hopefully it'll help you overcome some of the challenges in your own business. So Leighton, welcome.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me, and hello to all your listeners. And yeah, real pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thanks. So let me just start off. What made you write the book?
So what made me write the book is, I would say, three things. One is that, number one, our mission is to really be the software that helps companies in restoration and labor service industries to be able to win with the workforce. There's a way that companies want things done. There's a way that staff should be integrated into the workforce, and it's complicated. And the old way of doing it doesn't work. And the biggest thing is that staff today just won't use the old ways. And so, as a software company dedicated to making that more streamlined, we are very research oriented. So, we
Yeah,
wanted to understand, like, one of the reasons why workers quit, I'll get the cat out of the bag, is because for the average worker in this industry, their first 30 days is chaos. It's unstructured. It's very difficult to be able to integrate into the team and access information. And so we wanted to just really put the microphone to hundreds of workers in this industry and just say, a lot of them won't say, well, this is why I quit, but they
right.
would very gladly respond anonymously to, when great people in your company quit, why do they quit?
Yeah.
And they're like, I'll tell you why. And
Oh,
so we
wow.
wanted that information. But the second thing is that when we saw in November of last year, kind of mid Q4, we
Mhm.
saw the highest level of basically self-elected resignations in the service industry in the US. There was a lot of there was a lot of there was a lot of ideas of what was driving it, with the lazy millennials, and it's those checks from the government, and I'm not saying those things didn't play a role,
Right,
but we're a much more analytical company, and so we're like, let's dig in, because this is actually like a historical data point,
right.
and there's very little information. So we wanted to understand that, because our clients, we have a commitment to them to always try to help them win with their workforce. And the third thing is that yeah, really, like, I really believed that it would be something that would be very helpful to the industries that we service. And so I guess we wanted the information. We thought that people's opinions were kind of overly subjective and not really informed by data. And then finally, I really thought that it would be a good service to the industry. And fortunately, we have the horsepower to do it, and we had some great partners that came on board.
Yeah.
So that's why we did it.
That's fantastic. I can tell you personally too, I've seen companies decimated over the last 3 or 4 quarters. They got the opportunities, they got the work, they can't find people
Mm-hmm.
to do it,
Yep.
right? So there's this new focus on
Mhm,
teams and
mhm,
systemizing and
mhm,
keeping your workers happy and
mhm,
culture. So let me just start. I have some questions written down, but let me just
mhm.
start. You talked about the first 30 days.
Yep.
Tell me why that's important. And
Yes.
at the same
Mhm.
time, tell me what companies that are doing it well are doing differently than the ones that are not on that first 30 days.
Yeah, so I would say, you know, another way of thinking about the first 30 days is day one to question mark competent, consistent, compliant, and integrated into my team. And so really that is when people talk about, like, I want a scorecard, I need certain KPIs. One of the KPIs I would look at is, how many days does it take for you to take a new hire and take them to
Oh,
compliant,
that's a good
competent,
one. Yeah.
and integrate it into your culture. And nobody tracks it. And I think that for the most part, from what we've seen in our data, it's about 9 months to 2 years, right?
To get
And
fully integrated.
yeah,
Wow.
and based on just the established way of doing it. And the fact is that you can't play that strategy anymore. Staff, resignation and tenure has never been well, resignation's never been higher, tenure's never been lower,
Yeah.
right, in the industry.
Yeah.
And what's more is that a lot of workers, a lot of companies don't really think about their workforce in terms of the stratification. So what I mean by that is when you're thinking about designing an implementation or an onboarding of a new worker, it depends. It depends. Are they in what we would call like a hard skill role or a soft
Yeah.
skill role? What do I mean by that? Am I talking about soft skills, hard skills? No, I'm talking about, is this someone where there's a deep technical learning curve,
Right.
or I had to bring them up, they had to get go through a whole bunch of IICRC courses, or is this someone who's in a soft role? They're more just coming in and doing contents cleaning. Well, at the end of the day, there's different strategies around that, but ultimately, the first 30 days matters for three reasons. One is that workers nowadays, they crave structure in a way that they didn't before the pandemic. You
Okay.
know, and
Now,
so
that's not generational. Like, I mean, is that kind of the new generation that's coming into the workforce craves more structure, or is that across the board?
we're seeing it generationally. So what we're
Okay.
seeing is that particularly the Gen Z, the
Yeah.
worker who's coming in, who's, kind of, working age to probably about 25, up until what we call that late stage millennials. So someone's kind of
Hmm.
25 to maybe mid 30s. Those individuals, they experienced kind of like almost like the puzzle box was just flipped upside down and everything came crashing down. And what they recognized is that what used to be traditionally a very entrepreneurial, very enterprising type generation really became more oriented towards safety and structure and routine and really what we call predictability.
Correct.
And so one of the first things that the first 30 days should be designed around is really simply this, is you are communicating in those first 30 days what it's like to work here for the next 300. And for most
Wow, that's a
companies,
great way to look at it. Never looked at it that way. Mm.
so for most workers, when the first 30 days, most companies is like, look, it's crazy. I know that you don't have a trainer today, but hang on and you'll learn through osmosis, right? You'll just kind of, you'll get it from the walls,
You just kind of hang around. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and workers, especially young workers, they don't have what I call like that like career outlook to be able to say, if you just hang in there, you'll just figure it out. Their world is, if the first 30 days is a dumpster fire, the next 300, I'm out of here,
Oh,
right?
wow.
And the fact of the matter is that, but when they are met with, on that first day, that's why I know how we're so big on onboarding and we're so
Yeah.
big on, development paths in our software. So what we believe is that, and what we've seen in the data is that from that when that first day, when that worker is met with structure, is met with a clear path of how you're gonna level up in this company, when they see that this is a company that makes knowledge and access to questions that they have easy to answer, where they, there's other things as well. It really immediately allows them to kind of take a sigh of relief and say, you know what, I'm in an environment where I can grow and thrive, kind of like there's a lattice in place for me to grow on, as
Right.
opposed to just, hey, you know what, just get some fertilizer when it comes your way. You know what I'm saying? It's different. I mean, there's a lot more I could say, but the first 30 days matters. I mean, we've all heard, the old adage, which is people will remember how you made them feel.
Yes.
And nowadays, a lot of people, if you say, how was your first 30 days? They'll say, I don't really remember. What do you remember the feelings associated with your first 30 days? They'd say, I felt undervalued. I felt that I was kind of sold, that I was going to get more support than I actually did.
Hmm.
I frankly felt I had a lot of feelings of feeling like an idiot standing in front of a client, being like, I don't know, right? And actually, I felt kind of ostracized because there were people who said like, grab this or grab that. They're like, I don't know what it is. They're like, oh, you're the new guy, right? So I felt kind of ostracized. And you know what? People remember how they felt. And you may say, yeah, they should get over it. Be great to be your competitor because the fact of the matter is that staff aren't asking for the moon. What they're asking for is, hey, in my first 30 days, would it be possible for you to just give me an orderly overview of how I get integrated into your company so I can contribute, right?
No, that's interesting. So
Mhm.
in your book, you talk a little bit about, what's really important to employees today, right? I mean, there's a lot of discussion in the media. Everywhere you look, it's flex time. I don't want to go to the office. I want to work 4-day weeks. You know, there's a lot of these theories that are out there. I don't know how much of them is true or how much of them is not. But you've looked into this. What can you tell us on, and tell me what you're finding when you look out there are the most important things to employees when they're looking to join an organization?
Yeah. So, you know, I hate to lead with it depends, but I mean, in this case, it depends. So I'll try to like be super concise here.
Yeah.
So one of the departments that I would say is undervalued sometimes in labor service industries is the world of HR. Now, I'll be the first to say that sometimes HR just becomes a really administrative apparatus that doesn't really, I would say, take more of a strategic role. And sometimes HR can kind of, in a sense, hijack the company and really get, you know, really say, well, now, you know, we have this whole other focus that takes away from revenue generation. And just so at the end of the day, I appreciate that, but understand that HR has to play a different role, even if HR is just a something that every manager does. But I say that because what I'm going to unpack. So if you want to be a great employer, you want to be a great retainer of staff in this workforce, you have to begin thinking about your workforce within kind of the brackets that they belong to. So departments and generations, if you kind of think about it as a matrix, there's different things that matter to them. There's different things that matter to them in terms of why they took the job and then to why they stayed in the job. Okay. And sometimes they don't always correlate. So for example, a lot of technicians in the field, they took the job in large part because either a friend referred them or because they thought the wage was attractive. But when you fast forward, say 60 days and you survey them and say, but why did you stay in the job? Actually, way down the list, like number 5 is like wage. And way at the top is I'm staying because number 1 is that I have found a community that I'm part of.
Got it.
A second thing is that not in addition to that is that I find fulfillment in actually the work, right? As a third thing, it's that I enjoy some of the autonomy and independence that I'm afforded. You know, so there's things that retain them. But I would say, by and large, if I was one of your clients and I was thinking about, okay, we need to overhaul how we think about staffing. What I would do is I would think about, my staff in a bit more of a complex manner, and I would start to say, okay, some of our roles are what we call hard skill roles, and some of our roles are more soft skill roles. So what the heck do I mean by that? A hard skill role is like a high barrier of entry role. So these are like specialized skill sets. That means it takes a longer time to like train and develop that worker.
Maybe a CPA, CFO in your firm, things like that, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Or it could be someone who needs to have like a mold certification, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What you need to know is that the talent pipeline for those individuals has largely plateaued, right? And what's more is that because a lot of those workers are seeking reliability and even maybe a pension, some of those that are highly skilled, especially in the trades, are being more and more drawn to unionized work environments where they could potentially retire early, take a pension. And so you're competing against that, right? Not advocating that you have a union in your workplace, not what I'm saying, but I'm just saying that that's who you're competing against for those those hard skill, especially in the trade side areas, right? Then you have like soft skill things. So soft skill things would be like cleaners, general laborers, administrators, right? Low barrier of entry, not a high degree of training to kind of get them up to speed, but that also means that they have less skin in the game, right? Like someone who the company's invested a whole bunch in to like skill up, they've got some skin in the game. And so for me to get to this wage in another company, I'm going to have to start from the bottom, work my way up. Some of the roles in your client's company, you kind of start at the bottom, you can't stay at the bottom. You know what I mean? Like from a skill perspective. And so all I'm saying is that there's a different strategy to attract and retain those people, right? And you have to be aware of that, right? So for example, in those softer skills, for companies, I really think that the old way of just kind of shoulder to shoulder training is just not scalable. right? Because that person might only be there for 6 months, right? It's just not a good use. So you should use technology and tools to support with them, right?
Yeah.
So when you're thinking about hiring people, the first thing I would say is, okay, we call this like a hard skill or more of a soft skill role? And then we would say, and is this more of a field-based role or more of an administrative-based role? And then I know this may sound kind of like a loaded statement, but do we think that this would be a role that would probably appeal more to females or more to males? Because there are different things that appeal to them. Now, that being
Right.
said, our data showed that for the first time ever, 51% of people entering the industry in all roles are women,
Yeah.
right? And then finally, it sounds great, but like, how old do you think this person is from a demographic standpoint?
Right.
Because if you're hiring for roles that you think are largely going to be labor based, that are going to be bringing in young workers, really what appeals to them is, images and visuals around, this is the team that you're going to be part of. Here's an example of, these are the wages that you could be earning, and you could look at the consistency and structure that we can offer you. Whereas if you zoom into, say, like an administrative role for kind of early 30s individuals, for them, it's all about the relationships, right? The relationships that they're going to be able to form at work. So much of what they experienced was a lack of community through the pandemic, and so that's a very big thing for them. So how we promote that in our jobs, where we do the interview, right? Do we do the interview in a closed room, or do we do the interview in an environment where they can see, the cross pollination and how you're going to make a lot of connections?
Right.
And then if we're recruiting for probably someone who's a little bit later stage in their career, a lot of that is about, look at the development we can offer you. And then for those late stage, probably more executive roles, a lot of them, they're in the back nine and they're really looking at, what is the ultimate earning opportunity?
Right.
So a lot of what I see is a lot of people, they just post a lot of ads. They kind of, paint every candidate with the same brush, and they say just put it on ZipRecruiter or put it on Indeed and let's see who applies. And you know
Correct.
what? You just can't do that nowadays. You got to think about each role. Like, you got to think about a job description. Really, let's just answer 4 or 5 more questions, right? Let's just kind of profile who we think will probably apply,
Right.
and let's just think about, what are the things we put on the hook that appeal to them. There's a lot of stuff in the book. Go to whyworkersquit.com.
Yeah.
Free copy. There's a lot of things you can put on the hook that are going to bring them in, and then the work of then engineering your work culture to then create, let's call it, characteristics that actually retain those people.
Right.
That's a bigger undertaking, and you need leadership support, but it's doable.
Yeah, and I'm assuming for every job classification, if you do it once, I don't want to say it's one and done, but you can use it over and over and over again, right?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think so.
So tell me, like, you talk to a lot of people, and I talk to entrepreneurs all the time that want to exit the business or they're preparing to exit their business, but I think we're both here because we want to make companies healthier and we want to help
Mhm.
the owners. In benefits all of us to have healthy companies. So how can I say, what are the folks that have great culture and a great team doing differently
Mhm.
than the owner that does not?
Yeah.
Right? In simple terms,
Yeah.
what are they
Mhm.
doing differently?
So I think one of
Because
the things
like
that
I'm looking
yeah.
at bad culture and high turnover and
Mhm.
all the problems that come with people quitting and turnover.
Mhm.
That's an output of
Yep.
something else. Does that make
Nope.
sense? And so what are they doing differently on this side of the equation?
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying, language that I would use is that you're describing symptoms of a root problem, right? And
Correct.
it's ultimately like, this is happening, Gokul, this is happening. It's like, well, I don't know if that's the problem as much as that's a symptom that's growing off something nasty, right?
Right.
And so absolutely, I think that right out of the gates, let's not talk about symptoms, like let's talk about root, right?
Yeah.
And
What is the
and I,
root cause between a company that has great culture and
mhm,
low turnover? And I
mhm,
mean, you can't make everybody happy, but let's just say
yeah,
reasonably good employee satisfaction. People are generally happy versus
right.
what is that owner doing so differently?
So I think again, what we've seen, and I think it's largely, we have the advantage of having, essentially put the microphone in front of hundreds of people and said, what do you think?
Yeah, sure.
And so what we see is that a lot of it's clear. It really stems down to beliefs that are held by the leadership and management teams, and are those beliefs aligned to, let's say, creating things that actually create great work environments, considering the I would call it the dynamic of the marketplace today, right? So I'll give you an example. One of the things that, no question, is one of the best drivers of retention and people referring their friends to come work here is, does this work create, and does the leadership team believe in the idea of creating a sense of community, family, belonging within the workforce? You'll say, well, okay, hold on a second, what are we talking about that? Someone who ultimately believes that, look, it's not my job to give you a place to belong, right? Don't you have any friends, man? Well, the reality
I'm just
is
gonna do the
that
job. What else do you need? Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah.
You do the work, I'll pay you. Like, come on, let's be adults here. And so the reality is that what the pandemic showed a lot of people is that Facebook friends aren't real friends in a
Yeah.
sense, right? And you look at the data, like the data is out there. The data is the young workers that are coming into your company, it's very unlikely that they're plugged into like a faith community. It's very unlikely they're plugged into like a volunteer organization.
Yeah.
They just left high school, college, university, whatever. And the pandemic really showed them that you don't have a lot of connection. You're actually kind of rather rootless. Like,
So you're
you
saying
really.
work has also kind of become a little bit more social also for the people, the new generation that's coming in?
Oh, totally,
Okay.
totally. You talk to, it's not uncommon that, we surveyed hundreds of workers, and it's like, so what do you do on your weekend? Upper management is like, I spent time with family, I have some hobbies, there's things in my life that bring richness. I went to church, I'm involved in my curling club. Young workers, people who are like between, like, I don't know, 19 and 32, they're like, I did nothing. Met up with some friends from work, kind of just hung out until work came around again. And I'm not saying that they don't have, value, things in that, but for the most part, work fills a community element in their life that a lot of more senior people in the company don't necessarily need that. And so when it falls to you to create that sense of community and belonging, some people believe that that's just not my job as your boss, right?
Yeah,
And
it's really interesting. I tell you, even in my own company, like sometimes you're exactly right. Like, I mean, I've got a family, I've got 3 kids, and I'm working from home today, so you may hear them in the background screaming, but I'm kind of focused on family and things that matter to me, and I got hobbies and things of that sort. But I think the younger ones, it's the social aspect and the work aspect is probably fused more together, right?
totally, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, again, even myself, like, the other day, my son, he's very young, like, he like discovered the concept that he has a shadow. Like, he's not even 2 yet, right? And so, anyways, like, I caught it on video of him like being like, that's me, and like, he's only like 1 years old,
Fun,
but
fun.
but I shared that video with my team in like a shared chat community. We have like a culture, discussion, just for like side chats. And 10 years ago, I wouldn't have done that. I would have been like, hey, that's my personal life, right? And there's a gray area, like there's certain things like this, it's not
Man,
appropriate. But the thing is, but
you
you see
hit
what
the
I'm
nail
getting
on
at
the
though, right?
head. Yeah,
Yeah.
you hit the nail on the head. People always tell me I got to share things, and I'm such a private person, and it's so difficult to do. But so
Yeah.
listen, I know we can talk for hours on this, but here I
Mm.
want to ask you one question, kind of final question to kind of wind. People that are watching this, they're saying, man, this is a lot to do.
Yeah.
If you were going to recommend they start with just one thing to start moving down the journey of great teams and great cultures,
Mhm.
less retention
Yeah.
problems, things of that sort, what would that one thing be?
So
And I'm not putting you on the spot, but I am.
That's a perfect question.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that, because we've had lots of top chances to talk about the book and, at different conferences. And I've always wanted someone to ask me that question. So thank you. There is so much coming at managers and leaders today saying, here's a whole bunch of stuff you're not doing right, or here's a whole bunch of stuff you should be doing that you're not doing now. And you know what? It's landing on top of people who are way overworked. They're super, they're over capacity. And you know what? They're like, I don't know when. Like, I'm like that little diatribe about taking a video of your kid. I wish I had time to hang out with my kid to even take that video, but I'm so overworked. And so I believe that the people who need to lead this change, they need more time. You know what I'm talking about? And so if
Wow.
I had to say, like, where should you start? I would say you should start by giving your managers, your foremen, and even your leadership team 20% more time in their week. How do you do that? Here's my salesman coming in. You
Yeah.
need to standardize elements of their role that can be done by other people and give them a mechanism to delegate that to other people so that they have time to implement higher level strategic things that is more fitting with their skill and their capacity. So how would you do that? I would recommend that you develop systems and processes that power the common elements of your company and answer the common recurring questions. So for a work culture that don't memorize phone numbers any longer, and you get frustrated that you have to explain how to change that filter one more time, realize that that time where you are just constantly re-explaining, retraining, saying, it's faster if I do it myself. That is the wedge of the pie graph that is holding the time that you need to implement these transformational changes that aren't going to improve your business. No, it's going to keep your business alive in 5 years. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, anyways, I mean, that's why we're in the business. We're in the business, like people say, like, what's KnowHow's focus? We're trying to give management teams more time so that they can improve their companies. Well, how do you do that? Is that we standardize elements of their company. So frankly, staff can say, rather than when they say, hey, I know you've explained it to me a few times, but so-and-so's on the phone, and one more time, how do we bill out those, those Liberty Mutual? Don't ask me. We've standardized that. Just type in before you get the B on the Liberty, boom. That's how you do it. And they're like, oh yeah, sorry, right? And then you
Yeah.
get back into the whiteboard session of thinking about how you're going to think differently about engineering the first 30 days of a technician's day. You just can't do that. What are you going to order pizzas and have your workers skip their kids' baseball games because we got to figure out, a strategy. I know you're all overworked. No, you're the people that need to lead the change. They need more time, and the easiest way to give them more time is to allow them to delegate routine elements to other people. And the way that you do that is you standardize it and you use a mechanism to be able to not only give the instruction, but monitor if those people are doing things the right way. And just so happens that KnowHow is the software that does that.
That's great. So if people want to read the book or download the book, where can they get it?
whyworkersquit.com. So you go to whyworkersquit.com and you can get a free digital copy. If you are like me and you like a paper version, you can go to Amazon and just type in Why Workers Quit,
Awesome.
and you can get a copy off Amazon. But the digital copy is I think it's great, and I mean the fact that they're connected to you means that they're thinking about their business in a very mature way, and so heck, I just say just keep hanging out with Gokul's team.
No. Well, hey, thanks for that. No, I definitely even we're on the finance side of it, but there's an absolute correlation between teams and bench strength and how happy they are and how systemized a business is to the value that an entrepreneur is creating for himself or herself over time, right? So there's an absolute correlation with it, and I would think when we do transactions, because that's what we do, I mean, the number one question, or the number one reason why someone would even put a huge value on a company, is because of its team and how happy they are. It really is. So listen, I know we can talk for hours on this, but thanks for coming on. We'll do it again. And I think this was really, really timely. So thanks for coming on again.
Hey, my pleasure, and I hope that your listeners get something valuable. And if I had to hammer one thing home, it's these things take time, and
Yes.
the problem is that the market it's not going to give you the time. And so
Yeah.
my encouragement to you is find ways to move things off your plate, so that you can make airspace for some of these more strategic elements that, frankly, make your business more sellable.
Yeah, totally get it. Thank you for that, Leighton. I really amazing. Thanks for coming on.